Hey everybody, this is Tracy Armstrong. Just wanted to connect with you on some of these questions. Forgive me, I'm trying to set up my little space here. I'm outside. You can hear this little eagle or something going off. If you see me duck, know that the eagle's after me. Oh, there it is. Oh, don't get me. Somebody, I either need a hunter or someone who can pray for me to be safe. So anyway, I'm going to be getting situated for a second. And see if there's someone here. Is anyone watching? Let me see. I want to know who's watching. Swipe to see. All right. So when someone gets on, I think that would be. Should I invite some people? Hey, someone's on. Oops. Hey, Rick. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Angela. I'm good. I'm so glad that you guys are joining. And listen, today, what I want to do is I want to spend some time answering some questions. We had a few people send in some questions, and I spent a little time just going through, and I thought they were great questions. So I'll keep this on my Facebook, and I'll also put it on my other Facebook. I started a new Facebook page. It's called Barrier Buster. It's going to be where all of my coaching and success coaching is going to come through. And I have a new app that's called Barrier Buster. I'll tell you how to get that a little bit later. But you want to grab that app, and it's going to help you along in your journey to success. And the key is always breaking through limits, breaking through barriers, and breaking through things. But I just wanted to take some time. It's in the Northwest. It's beautiful. If you can tell, we're in the Northwest. This is not California, and this is not Hawaii. This is the Northwest, and it is beautiful. I will try to check online to see if you're adding any questions today, but I just want to talk through the questions that I've already received. And if you have any challenge hearing me, somehow let me know. I'm just kind of assuming that everything is going well and that you can hear me. So I see some comments. Let me just make sure that everybody is tracking along. This page requested cannot be. I don't think I can see those comments on there while I am on the Facebook page. So let me see if I can get these comments. They're not letting me get the comments on my iPad as I'm watching, as I'm on here. I see Kim Krallman, which is my assistant. Is she awesome? She's amazing. Kim, if you are having any challenge hearing me, will you just send me a text so I can see it on my iPad, and I'll try to get through and see any of the comments that are coming through right now. And I'll just get started in a few more, just one more minute on just some of this communication I want to give. We have some great questions. I think that there's some more questions coming through even now, but I just can't get to them. I wish I would have known that it won't allow me to share the screen here. If someone that's wise, Facebook wise, will help me, let me know. Sounds great. Okay, thanks, Kim. Appreciate it. Let me just get started, and then I'll see if I can, by the end of it, share. Now I think this records automatically. So a friend of ours, Nanki, she asked a question, which was a great question. She says, what is the best way to get your business out there, and what media and marketing strategy would be the best through media such as Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, etc., even newspaper ads? I want to just encourage you, just right now, if you can focus on making sure that you're building a relationship on Facebook, if you're building a relationship on Instagram, you're building a relationship on any of those platforms. First of all, use those platforms just as we're using this now. Use them to build relationships. Use them to encourage others. If you're going to create some ads, the hottest spaces for ads right now would be Facebook. Facebook ads are really hot. They're real distinct in their ability. They're dynamic in their ability to go after the crowd and the group that you want to reach. In addition, YouTube is really hot with ads, and so you want to be a little more creative. You're going to tell more of a story, a video story, which is great on YouTube, and I would encourage that. There's another thing that I've been researching that is really seems to be interesting about Facebook. Is Facebook is they want you to build relationships. So anything that you do in building relationships, if you create an ad and you put it on your Facebook post and you put it on your Facebook page and your friends start to share it, they are actually going to be really engaged with that. And so when you boost those, that's going to be good ad space for you. That's going to be very important that you have those. And so I would use the boost on those posts that I would present, and then I would also use Facebook ads. You're going to be seeing some Facebook ads coming through for us. I'm giving away a book followership, and just going to be doing something. So watch how we post those ads, what we do with those ads, and want to encourage you just to follow along. But so the hottest is Facebook and YouTube right now. Instagram is doing some things that are getting attention, and in what I've heard is the ad space. I haven't done any Instagram advertising, but just the way Instagram is working with its building of community, it's working really great. And then LinkedIn is I heard is getting very progressive. So I would encourage you to actually set a budget aside. If you are in a business, set aside 10% just for ad space, and try to be consistent with it every single month to hit those. Don't let it space off very much, but hit that ad space every single month. And I would do Facebook, and I would do those especially where you're the most you're growing the most on. If you have relationships on, so we have good relationships on Facebook, and we have good relationships on Twitter. Twitter is still not there with their ad space, but everybody's trying to compete with Facebook. So I would imagine that something's going to come out on Twitter here soon. But I would say spend time building relationship on all platforms, and then advertise on the ones that get the most feedback. So if people are communicating with you there, people are talking to you there, that means you have a relationship there, and it's going to be very important that you build relationship there. And so many of you are just jumping on. I know some of you don't know that I'm just specifically answering business questions. I'm so glad that you've jumped on. I receive business questions pretty consistently from different people, and so I thought I would do a Facebook talk, getting some of the questions and just answering some of them. Some people send them beforehand, they post it. Here's another good one. What are some methods to find new business relationships, clients, and contacts? That's everybody, every business leader, every business person is trying to find new contacts, new relationships, new clients. The best thing to do is to identify your target customer. So I know that it's when you're starting business, the goal is just to make money and just to get out there and try to get some business and some clients. But the realization is, if you are not actually honed in on who you want to reach, then you'll just begin to reach everyone, and you won't do that. You'll try to reach everyone, and you won't do that successfully. No one reaches everyone successfully. So I would encourage you to really lock in on who you want to reach, what your target is, what you will offer them. And the best way to do it is first figure out what your message is. What's your message? What's your product? What are you wanting to present? And then make sure you can find those customers, the ones that want what you're looking for. They will embrace that message. And so my encouragement is first identify what your brand is, what you're doing. Go through some brand development and engage yourself and really understand who you are, what you do, and what you offer. And then find the customers, because there's billions of people on this planet, and I guarantee there's at least 100,000 for you to deal with. And so I want to encourage you to find those customers that are going to work in your space, that are looking for what you're looking for, and then try to engage them. The best thing to do is to identify them and then build value through generosity. Make sure that you're constantly building value, giving away, being generous. I know that that's not what you're in business for, is to be generous, but the realization is, if you take the generosity route, you take the route where you're going to be generous, you're giving more than what you're expecting, you're giving more than what you're taking, people will always come to you. And then the next thing I would suggest in this is become the expert in your space. Become the person that everybody wants to know. that's going to listen to. If you become the expert, you're the one that's researching, you're the one that's talking it out, you're the one that's talking about it, and you're giving away this information and the research and the content that you have for free. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's dog grooming or whether it's cars or whatever it may be. There's people that want to know about what you do, and the more you can educate them, the better they are going to be. Right now, we're in a society where typical sales is not going to work the way that it always has, where you just try to, you pinch people into a place, or you move them through your sales system. You're going to have to really build a relationship with them. You're going to have to really engage them at the level that they're looking for, and they're smart consumers, and so you want to make sure that you're working with them at that level. And the more value you give, the more trust you build, and the more trust you build, the more that they'll want to continue to build a relationship with you. That would be, I think, important. The most important part is just make sure that you're building a relationship with people. I think something that is, the more I talk to people in business, the more I talk to leaders that are starting companies or even in business for a long time, I have one question that I ask, and I ask it every single time. And almost every time, I would say 95% of the time, the answer is no to my question. And this, my question is always, what are you doing now to help your current customers refer you? And most people are not doing anything to promote or have referrals. If you are not working referrals, if you're not working relationships already, and those relationships are not connecting you to their space, then you're missing out on so much more business and so much more relationships. So my first thing would be put together in business some kind of referral system, some kind of ability to build referrals. So what referral is immediately going to do, referral is going to build brand loyalty, and brand loyalty is going to get you further than you can ever imagine. So I would encourage you to make sure that you build a system where there's referral. If you're going to try to build all of the sales, my son's out walking. If you're going to try to build all the sales in all these other platforms, and you're not first doing that which is already warming up for you, other relationships, then you're missing out. So I'd say go and find a way and create a great sales system through referrals, and build relationship through referrals. The other thing is you need to know that this environment, this client in business, this climate in business, is it's a trust climate. It's a climate where trust is not where it used to be, and so you want to make sure that you're constantly trying to build trust. I just want to make sure my phone doesn't go to sleep. I want to make sure you're constantly building trust with those that you're trying to sell to, because people have lost trust, and the threshold of trust is really low. So you have to build it, and that's the goal. And if you're not building the threshold of trust with people, then you're not really setting yourself up for success. See, I wrote down another answer to that. And these just continue to build engagement and think long term. Don't think I need a sale today. Think long term. The more desperate you are in trying to get a sale today, the more desperate you come across, and the more likely people won't engage you. The next question is, as a business owner who is constantly busy with family and business, how does one find and make friends without sacrificing time with family? Real friendships that are not one-sided. Well, that's the challenge of being alive, is just to make sure you protect yourself in such a way that you're not being used. But the challenge, I think the challenge is that you have to be willing to be hurt in order to have really good friendships. And that's the thing, is if you keep your guard up and you're not willing to allow people in, then you won't have good friendships. But in order to have good friendships, you have to be willing to be hurt and open up yourself. The other thing is to protect your family, and to make sure that you don't put yourself in a position where you're going to lose your family and you're going to lose relationship at home. You have a sad home, you're going to have a sad business. You may have success in finances, but you won't want to go home. So if you're growing a business and you're doing well in business, you want to make sure that home is first. And so my thing is, I always have home first. First for me, make sure your family's happy, make sure your kids are happy. If you're married, make sure your spouse is happy, and serve them. And one of the worst things you can do is serve everyone well out at business and then not serve well at home, and then serve your friends. And so if you know that every relationship is purposeful, that you have been given relationships, that God sends you relationships, and that you have these relationships to work on and to work on them and they work on you. When you posture relationships properly, then it's hard to let them get out of balance and out of boundaries. I think the only thing that we're concerned about is boundaries and these boundaries. And I think relationships, each relationship has a different boundary. If we go with the example of Jesus, just as a person who built relationships, you see him in the Bible, his relationship with God, his Father, relationship with his earthly family, relationships with those that walk with him, those that talk with him. There was always relationships, but you see this breakdown where he had a relationship with the 3 that was different than the relationship with the 12, that was different than the relationship with 70, and then that was different than the relationship with 120, and even more so different than the relationship that he had with the masses. And so knowing how to govern yourself, posture yourself in these relationships will help every relationship around you be healthy. And so my encouragement is to make sure that you build those relationships purposefully. Don't just have a relationship because you're lonely. You'll gather with lonely people and you'll be lonely together. Build relationships around something. Find something that is common. Find a common thing other than loneliness or emotional brokenness. And if you are emotionally broken and you come along with other emotionally broken people, then find something positive that you guys can put your energy in, going out, hiking, feeding the poor, whatever it may be, and put your energy in that, because you're going to be encouraged as you're growing. But the realization is you want to make sure that you cherish the relationships around you. You want to make sure that you're spending time with those relationships and investing in them. Love language book is really good. But you want to make sure that you protect the relationships. For me, we have a day that we call our family day, and it's a day that we just don't do business. This week I'm working on my family day, which was Monday, but we moved it to Friday. So Friday we're going to have family day, and so it's nothing gets in the way of that day. No one gets that attention other than my family and our God, and we just spend time together. And so if you protect those relationships, and you protect those moments and you protect those times, you have to set it aside and know that this time is for this. Now on Tuesdays, I protect that day. That day is for something else, another kind of relationship. On Wednesdays, that's my staff day. I protect that day. Thursdays, I'm in counseling meetings a lot on Thursdays. And so those are days. And then there's the day that I spend building a business for myself and doing other things. So I want to encourage you, separate. Everything's a relationship with money, relationship with people. All of those things are based upon your self-management. So if you can manage yourself, you can manage your relationship with people, and don't allow anything to get out of hand and out of control, because boundaries is just a good ability to manage yourself and those priorities that God has given you. So I want to encourage you to continue to do that. I see comments coming through, and I'm really sorry that I can't see those comments. I'll try it in a little bit to see if I can get to those comments. But thank you. Hopefully they're like, this is good comments, and not, hey, you're a jerk, stop talking comments. Let's go on to the next question. It says, when validating a new idea, how much time should you give yourself really pushing it as hard as you can before deciding? Yes. Hey, my wife's giving me her phone. Okay. Hey, thank you. Thank you. All right, so glad that you have joined. And you're going to come and join me? You're going to not join me? You're going to stay over there? Okay. I tried the recruiter. So thank you, guys. And I'll just ask my wife if she's watching, if she can see if there's any questions that end up coming along the way. Then I'll try to catch those at the end here. So yes, I did say you want to build trust. You want to just build a relationship. And again, this environment, we just want to make sure that we're loving people and we're taking care of the relationships that have given us. We've all been given this stewardship of relationships, and they're all purposeful. I see some of my best friends coming on, and these are all purposeful relationships. They're not time wasters. And so they all deserve to be invested in as they are. So we're moving into when validating a new idea. How much time should you give yourself really pushing it as hard as you can before you decide you need to pivot, potentially let it go? That's a tough one, because most of the time when we get ideas, they become our baby, they become our child, and so we want to really see this thing birth. It's conceived in the mind. You want to see it birthed out, and so you want to just make sure that you're being faithful with it. I think the validation can only happen through evaluation. I think the biggest thing that we do is we have this baby and we don't ever check up on it. We don't ever evaluate it. We don't measure it. And we just have this idea and it's just stirring in me. We're like, oh, one day I want to do this. And we're just in the dream mode. But we've got to get it out of the dream mode and bring it into existence. And one of the inventions we have is called Hunt for the Cross, and it's a cross-shaped Easter egg. And this was like, for me, it was one of the ways that I learned the process of scaling. And it happens that, sometimes we just want things, we get an idea and we want it to be fully grown, but the idea doesn't come to us fully grown. It always comes in seed form. It comes as a little thought, comes as a little idea. I wonder if this would be, I wonder what would happen if I did this. And we have these little thoughts, and it's just the initial seed, and that seed then begins to grow and germinate. But it germinates in our mind, and so we never measure it, we never evaluate it. At some point, you've got to get it out of your mind, and you have to evaluate it. So then you have to build a prototype. You take it out of your mind and you start to build a prototype. Even talking to people about it isn't really as helpful as trying to build it, trying to see if it's something that actually can live. And then when you start to build that idea and that prototype, then you start to see it. So what I did is I took the clay and I shaped this Play-Doh, it was, into a cross-shaped form like an egg. And then I took pictures of it and I started to seed those that could help. I talked to manufacturers, I talked to patent agents, and I started to seed. And as I was going through, as you start to seed, then you start to realize I'm watering it and it starts to grow. And you need to now start to measure it. If you do anything without evaluation, you're planning to fail. So you want to make sure you evaluate, you measure. And I think it sometimes seems like it's not very nice to measure stuff, because when you start to measure how this is going, you can get discouraged. But it just may mean that you need to tweak it a little bit, and you won't know you need to tweak it if you don't measure it. And so I just want to encourage you that if we have all of our children, my wife says, they have my family head, and they were big. She said they had a big head, and because every time we would take them into the doctor when they were little, they would measure their head, and they say, oh, he's on the 5 above percentile, 105 percentile or something, like 95% of the percentile of growth. But we knew that they were healthy, and then they'd measure their body and their legs, and we knew that they were healthy. And if you never measure, you'll never know if you're actually moving towards health or if you're scaling backwards. And so I would encourage you, just make sure that you're measuring when you're doing this. And in your evaluation, you want to know where it is in the infant stage. As long as they're an infant and they measure off, this is the way it's happening, that's great. Then you're excited about that. But then when they become, it gets to a certain age and it needs to go past infancy and they're still measuring like an infant, then you want to make sure that you're adjusting, you're making some changes. Every month, every week, you want to make, maybe every week you want to make some measurements. And if you're not paying attention to your business plan, if you wrote a business plan and you've been in business for 12 months and you haven't gone through your business plan has changed. You've already had so many different changes in your mind that you didn't put in your business plan. Your business plan needs to be evaluated and adjusted, I would say, every 6 months. Business is changing that rapidly. You want to make sure that you're changing and you're growing. And there's a lot of people that are out of business today because they missed a 6-month to 12-month cycle of changing. When society is changing, consumers are changing, the way business is done is changing. And we can get stuck. I've been stuck and not, probably still stuck in some areas. But I want to just encourage you to make sure that you are evaluating. And then if you find that you are, if you can't gauge by the monetary, you're in it and you're giving out a lot of money and it's not bringing any money in, then you need to go to another engagement in measurement. Is you want to figure out, are you gaining margin? Are you gaining relationships? Are you building relationships? If you're gaining relationships but you're not gaining in money, it still could be a good investment, but you have to measure that. And let's say you're not gaining monetarily and you're not gaining in margin, but you're gaining in momentum. It's the energy is picking up. Consumers and people are starting to pay attention. These are the realms that I would seek to measure. I would seek to measure in my monetary. I would seek to measure in my momentum, and I would seek to measure in my margin, my relationships, and the things and the people in the space that I'm starting to occupy. And that would be important. The other is after that is if you find that these areas you find that you're not increasing, you're not growing, and the measurements are not taken off, then you want to do what we call around here green eggs and ham it. And just a short version of that is be willing to change your method and not your message. And so maybe your message is locked in, you know who you are, you know what you're supposed to deliver, but you need to change your method. And so what I love about green eggs and ham is that yes, you want to eat green eggs and you want to eat ham, green eggs and ham, but if you're in my house, you don't eat ham. But you want to eat green eggs and ham, but the realization is you've never had it presented to you in the way that you want it. And so you have to change the method. Would you eat it on a bike? Would you eat it on a boat? Would you eat it in the train? And you just keep on finding different methods of delivering what you want to deliver. All right. So hopefully this is helpful. What is the best way to uncover the routes with the best money long term? Uncover the routes with the best money long term. Invest your time and money into people, I think, is the best route to invest your money long term. I think if you invest in people, then you're investing in the best product there is in the earth. And if you can invest in people, you invest in relationships. Businesses close all the time. I've worked with people, and that which we've worked on has dissipated. It's no longer around. But I just bumped into some people in Dallas where we worked in this organization together, and that relationship is still in place even though the organization that we worked in dissipated. And so you may work in a business, you may work in an organization, you may work in a company, and you're working hard in that company and you're coming up with new ideas in that company. But if you're not building relationships in that company, then you're really cutting the whole purpose for you being in that company short. You may be in a job or a position right now that you don't like, and you want to move on, but maybe you don't move on because the realization is you're building the right relationships for the next season. And so I would encourage you, if you're going to invest in people, invest in relationships, build relationships, and network. Find people, and then do the best that you can to help them become who they are supposed to be, who they want to be, and who they're called to be, and what they dream to be. And invest in them, and that is an investment. Spend money, do whatever you have to do, take them to dinner. Some of the ways I actually started coaching business leaders, I literally just would say, hey, you know what, you're successful. Can we go to lunch? Can I treat you to lunch? And I would just literally invest whatever little money I had, just sitting with them, talking to them, just listening and trying to find out how they became who they were and how they received the success they received, they walked in. I learned so much, but I had to invest in those relationships, and those relationships are still around today. Some of them are my closest friends. And so I want to just encourage you, you'll never go wrong investing in people. You'll never go wrong investing in relationship. The best education you'll have is sitting down with someone over a cup of coffee with some tea or buying a meal. And I would encourage you to do that, continue to do that. If a bridge burns, don't let it be for you. Don't let it be on your end. Do your best to continue to try to mend those bridges. And my thought has always been this: if a bridge is burning, I'm standing next to it with an extinguisher ready to put it out. I don't want to be the person that's next to the bridge with a match. I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person that has in my hands the extinguisher ready to put it out. So don't let bridges burn relationally. Do your best. And of course, you can't always fix it because sometimes that just happens. And I have relationships that, there's nothing I could do. But the realization is, are you standing there with a fire extinguisher ready to put out the bridge that's on fire if it turns that all parties' emotions get out of the way and we can sit down and start to build a relationship again? That's always very important. Here's a couple of godly questions. When God gives you a vision, a visual representation of what your dream looks like at full, in near full capacity, like the dream is meant to operate in the finished product is what they're talking about, then you're brought back into reality. That's a big deal. Is you get this vision is always the big picture, right? Vision is always the end result. We just bringing God in this again. We pray, oh God, give me an apple, and then we pray, and all of a sudden there's a package that comes in the mail. We open it up, and there's a seed, and inside of the seed inside of a package, and on the front it has a picture of an apple and an apple tree, and we get to see the finished product. That's what the vision is. That's what if we were to talk about prophecy, that's what that is. That's the front page of that package with the seed. But inside, it's just simply an idea. It's simply a thought. It's you have to start with it. And so my best encouragement for us is to make sure that we understand the power of cognitive dissonance, which means I'm holding two opposing thoughts in my head. One day I'm going to be a billionaire. One day I'm going to be a millionaire. One day I'm going to lead this corporation. One day I'm going to do that. That's a vision that I need to hold as if it's today. I can't let it be so far out there, else I'm not transforming into it. I need to hold it in my mind as if it's today. But today, there's a realization. I just received in the mail an eviction. I'm going to be extreme just because I want them to be so far from each other. And there's been many testimonies of people who have been evicted in their cars, living homeless, and then all of a sudden, but they're dreaming of this, right? They're dreaming of that pursuit of happiness. So we know that we have to hold that in our minds as if that's who we are today, but at the same time, we have to live in the reality of now, and that is a conflicting place to live. We live in that place, and it's hurt, and you get frustrated, and you get angry, and the reason you must have that place of who you're going to be in the future and who you are right now, you must have that, because that's the tension, that's the energy, that's the violence that you need to become who you're called to be and who you want to be in the future. Keep dreaming. Let the dream become so intense that it frustrates you about where you live right now, and that will help you become who you are, who you want to be. And that's called cognitive dissonance. Two opposing thoughts fighting each other every day, but you can't let go of either one of them. And they're fighting for sanity. And it's a perfect build. It's a perfect engineering in our brain, because our brain is fighting for space. I'm either that person or I'm this person, but you're not either right now. You're not this one that's being evicted, and you're not that one that's now going to be a leader of a Fortune 500 company. You are both in the same space, and so you're fighting for that space. And don't ever give up that space. Don't ever let it. Use the frustration, own it. Use the shame, own it. Use the doubt, own it, and use it for energy. You don't need someone rah-rahing you if you have cognitive dissonance. You will wake up with an energy that says, you know what, that's where I'm going to be, and you keep dreaming about that, because this one is real. This reality, you bump into that without even looking for it. So you have to dream harder on the future. You have to keep that in your mind. I'd say even 2 to 3 times a day, meditating on it, musing it, and evaluating it, and looking at it, and then seeing what you can do to get there. All right, so that's number one. In this, there are several other questions. Thanks for sticking in here, and I know it's a long one. Didn't know how long it would take me to get through this, but I wanted to get through these. So if you have to jump off to go back to work, do something, I'll keep it posted. But thank you for checking in. I see some of you have to rotate through, but thank you very much. Number one to this question is, how should we respond? A vision is a snapshot. Just make sure that you understand this vision is like a snapshot. There was a movie, I think it was called Paycheck. And it was about this gentleman who was he was hired to reverse engineer things, and so he would be hired by a company, reverse engineer whatever they were working on, reverse engineer it, and he ended up making this machine that could see into the future, and they said it was kind of looking around the corner, and what you get is a vision, it's a snapshot of your future. You want to really know what that looks like. Don't just say, oh yeah, one day I'm going to be a CEO. Okay, that's not good enough. You will not reach it. You have to really get clear what kind of CEO, what company, how are you going to treat your employees, what are you going to say, how are you going to dress. You want to get as detailed as you can, because the more you're detailed in that vision, easier it is to reverse engineer it. You get detailed in your vision of the future, you reverse it back to, okay, I have the seed to start it, and you move forward. So you want to make sure that you treat your future like a snapshot, reverse engineer it, and go towards it. Just like that seed. On the front, we're going to get an apple tree. Inside, it's a little seed. That seed is what you want to start with. If you can't reverse engineer it to where you have that seed, you have to envision it deeper. Go more into the future, see it clear, so that you can actually reverse it down to where you can get the starting point of that and reverse engineer it, and then build on that. That vision will really feed you all of the steps that you need to move forward. Number two, what is the system or process to properly timeline where in our future that will happen, if at all? Should we even be trying to timeline that? You know, I think the timeline should be based upon not necessarily goals, but based upon benchmarks. I'm gonna lose 50 pounds by next year this time. How we're gonna do that? I'm gonna lose 2 pounds. Well, you figure out how many, in the next 12 months, how many weeks within that month, and then how many pounds you want to lose within those seasons, and then you know, what is it going to take for me to lose that many pounds a week to reach that? Then you figure out you have to test it in a few weeks. So we're going to spend this next 30 days making sure that I'm on target to lose that much weight. So let's say my goal is to lose 1 pound a week. So I'm going to now test the system to lose that pound a week, and then the next week I'm going to test another system to lose that. I'm going to keep that system. If that system working, I'm going to keep it. The more I actually work that system, and it works every single week, the more I've proven that system, and the more I prove that system, the more that system can be now scalable. And so again, reverse engineering it, but you're trying to get to a proof of concept. And a proof of concept is, it does work. I put it in this space of time, it does work. It's like when you're dyeing your hair or something, or I was spraying some new furniture we had, and it said test it under the pillow before you spray the top of it. Or you have to test that little spot to make sure it doesn't bleach out. And so I tested that spot, and I made sure it didn't bleach out, make sure nothing happened. So then I sprayed the rest of the pillow and the carpet, and I sprayed all of it just to make sure. But I wanted to make sure. They always say test it. And so that's what you're doing. When you're creating benchmarks, you're creating little test subjects, a little test space and test moments to make sure that what you're thinking will actually work. Now, if it works in a week, and then you can then scale it for the next week. And if it works in 2 weeks, then scale it for 3 weeks. And if it works in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, now you have a proven, scalable system. And that's what you want. You want a proven, scalable system. You want something that you can predict. I know if I eat this many calories every week and I work out like this, I predict every single time with success, not guesswork. This is measurable. Every time I will achieve this. And so that's what you want to get to. There is a timeline, but the timeline must be based upon your ability to measure off your results. And you want to spin that, remember that little dye test, that little, tanning. I don't know if you do test on your skin for tanning, but you want to make sure that you do some kind of test. As you can tell, I don't need to do it. I'm sitting in the sun getting a nice tan right now. So I want to make sure you have a proof of concept, and you're able to move forward on that concept, and you want to work with a scalable model, something that scales up. If it doesn't scale up, don't keep doing it. If you spend that week and you gain 3 pounds, it's probably not the thing you want to keep doing. So go ahead and scratch that plan, get on a different plan, and then scale up to the next level. All right. So that'll be very important. Number 3, if I had an actual vision, dream of what my business looks like, but the time frame already passed from when it was supposed to happen in the dream, what do you do? All right. So this is an important question: is that you dream again. The hard part is going through that season where you've made up your mind that this is when it was supposed to happen. And there was a gentleman who was shot down in the war. As he was shot down in the war, they took him into a prisoner camp. And in people going into the prisoners camp, there's 5 or 6 of them. As they were going into the prisoners camp, the men that were there with him said, "Oh, we're gonna get out. America's gonna get us out of here. We're gonna get out of here right away." And they actually started to mark dates on their calendar when it was going to happen, when this was going to happen. This one gentleman, he decided he wasn't going to set a date, but he did decide something. He says, when I get out of here, I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to be more spiritual. I'm going to be more physically fit. I'm going to be more emotionally fit. I'm going to be more spiritually fit. And what he did is he built a scalable regimen for him every day: push-ups, exercising, mantras, speaking out, and affirmations, and along the way, it took longer than anybody thought. All of the people who had been calculating, setting these dates, they all ended up dying because they would come to that date, and that date was a disappointing date for them, and they couldn't muster up their energy enough to dream again, and so they died in it. They lived strong up until that date, and then they died after that date. And I think it's not for us. I think it's for us to look at it as benchmarks instead of goals. So benchmarks, if I don't hit a benchmark, I can actually set another benchmark, and I go back to working, and I can go back and see, hey, it actually did work. I didn't lose as much as I wanted to lose, but I did lose. And so I'll just maybe make some adjustments so I'll move forward. And I think when you set something, it's a do or die circumstance. I think that's challenging because everything's changing, market's changing. We were looking at a building recently, and in the space that we own, that we're looking at, the owner or the people that are leasing it, it's called Outer Wall, and Outer Wall had no idea that there was going to be an adjustment in their market. They actually do the vending machines for Redbox and vending machines for Coinstar and another vending machine. And they never thought that there would be a Netflix. They never imagined that there'd be a Netflix. And so they were locked into what they were doing. And if you're not scouting out and looking for new, you can actually miss an opportunity. So Netflix comes, is not killed their business, but really took a huge chunk of their business. Now they aren't able to expand. They're actually having to move out of a space, move into a smaller space. And I just want to encourage you, yes, we do have benchmarks, we do have goals, we do have these things, but you have to be in a position where you can dream again. The gentleman that decided, I'm not going to set a date. But all he said is, I am going to get out of here. I will not die in here. And he chose to live in the space that he was in, small confined space, and he won. And he came out healthy, wrote a book, became successful. And you have to know that that's what you have to do. You have to set these things in. And there's a Bible story that actually gets my attention every time. And I'm going to try to cut this off before an hour. So thanks for your patience, guys. But this Bible story, it says that the children of Israel will go into bondage for 400 years. But then later it says they were there for 430 years. And I thought to myself, my goodness, that's amazing. I just don't understand how the Bible communicates this 400 years and then 430 years. But there's always something being calculated at different times. So when God gave the promise, it was 400 years, but it was 30 years before they went in. He gave the promise to Abraham. Abraham had to think about this for 30 years, that his children's children were going to be in exile, or they were going to be in bondage in Egypt for 400 years. So when he heard the story, even God said it was going to be 400 years, they're going to be there. But the challenge, the problem started when he first heard the story. And so it's 430 years when it's calculated. If you start counting when you're not supposed to be counting, the times will change. And so you need to know that there is going to be some things that shift along the way. And so don't get discouraged if it didn't happen when it happened. And I know it's tough, but if you set it as a benchmark, this is what we're going to have. I'm going to lose as much weight. I'm going to work this, whatever. I'm going to start this business. I'm going to start a new business in January. I'm excited about it. I'm working towards it. But I learned that, I can't be desperate about it. When you're desperate about starting something, you will be disappointed when it doesn't launch when you need it to. And so just make sure that you govern yourself. Hopefully that helps. Set benchmarks. What is the best way to communicate with God about business? Secondly, how can we put God in charge? Wow, that's deep. Prayer obviously answers what they respond. Prayer is the obvious answer, but what if the business owner that you're working with doesn't hear from God audibly or even inwardly, I would imagine, but wants divine guidance even though they pray every day? This is a good one. I just put down bullet points here, so I'm just going to cover the bullet points real quick. Pray. Yes, you want to pray, but not only pray, but I wrote pray like it's up to God. Pray, really pray with a demand on it. Then the next thing I wrote is then work like it's up to you. And I think sometimes we pray like it's up to God and we work like it's up to God. And I think there's a statement that says that most people that believe they're going to be millionaires, they spend their time praying and hoping for it. And so you're going to have to pray, but pray like it's really up to God. And then you're going to spend your time working and work like it's really up to God. And the other thing is I find that people read my books and they say, you know what, I read your book. That book really spoke to me. I feel like I know you. Thank you for writing that book. It really helped me. And I realized that every author is speaking through their writing. And so I know that if you read the author's book, if you read the book of the Bible, which is God's authority in the earth, and he's the author of all life. He knows how all this works. And if you read that, he speaks through it. And so I think that's important. Another thing I think you should know is that there's relationships that God gives. Joseph and Pharaoh. Pharaoh wasn't very good at hearing, but Joseph was. And then there's Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar wasn't very good at really understanding what he saw, but Daniel was. And so these are relationships. And so you have to know that sometimes being positioned as a second leader or second level leader in an organization is the best place you can be, because you can hear better than the person who has to take responsibility over those things. And if you have the right relationship with them and you posture how they hear and you posture how they hear from you, and you understand how they receive information, you being in that position, not having the weight, not having the heaviness, not having all the responsibilities. I was talking to a young man the other day. He's really doing well in real estate. He's getting coached by someone, and his coach was telling him his numbers, and he was telling the real estate numbers, and he was saying, my coach, he has the responsibility of coming up with $17 million just in expenses. And he's like, man, that's $17 million. He makes this much, but that's $17 million. And I think there's a lot of people that don't know the weight of having to make the decisions at that level. And if you can be the voice for that person, if you can be the one that can hear for them, the one that can conceive some thoughts and help them along the way, that only benefits you. And so some people, it's hard when you have $17 million in debt, in bills, in responsibility, expenses to go out. You're going to be looking for a proven track record, but sometimes that which is proven is not good enough for you in this next season. So they need someone on the team that is also listening in every way and gaining information. So hopefully that helps. The next thing I would say is wise counsel is rarely refused if it's given in the right way, the right posture. So understand how your leader receives, understand how they listen, and how they receive from you specifically. All right, what are my favorite scriptures on business from the Bible? I just want to say wow. There's so many, but there's one that I do want to just share real quick. Is in Genesis 3:19. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. I just think that's a great one, because he's saying, if you refused my system in the garden where everything was coming free, now I'm going to put you in a system where you have to work the ground, and you have to work, and you're going to work in such a way that it's going to produce for you, and it's going to keep you along until you die. I think that's awesome that God says to us, basically, now go into business. You didn't want to be in my business, go into your business and do your business and do it well, and to the point that it will sustain you. Rabbi Lapin, who's a friend of mine, he shares a deeper thought on this, saying that this was the first introduction of bread. And the introduction of bread means that he's also introducing that the only way you're going to really make money, make bread in this season, in this world, is to build relationships with others, and have that Cain and Abel, what it was supposed to be, relationship where they work with each other. So the story is that when you make bread, you need someone that has the milk, someone who has the wheat, someone who has the ovens, whatever it may be, but you need a community to make bread. And so what God was saying, go out into the marketplace, do marketplace, build marketplace. That's where my blessing is. It's going to overcome the curse. And so I think that that's beautiful. The more business, people wonder why I'm interested in business as a spiritual leader, as you're a pastor, why are you in the business? Because this to me is the reversing of the curse. Doing business together, working together, I think it's the greatest spiritual thing that we can do in going to business together. I think it's wonderful. And then the exchange of being able to have money to show that I've been doing good business with people, I think it's just amazing. And then in being able to be a blessing and to sow in other people's lives. So I think that one, and I have a whole teaching on it in Genesis 3:19, but that would be my thing. Is I think God wants us, in order, it's a breaking of a curse to work together in business. And so, all right, how many more do we have? Wow, we have a few more. I'll try to move through them. Who are some of your inspirations in business, and what characteristics about them make them your favorite? Well, yeah, I read old timers. Anybody that is an old school business leader. I love Andrew Carnegie. I'm really into now is Earl Nightingale right now. I just anything I can get. As far as modern communication, I try to do anything that I can that's going to help me understand human psychology, help me understand human behavior, marketing strategies. I'm really into marketing this season, so that's what I'm in. But any old school, Jim Rohn, my wife introduced me to Jim Rohn. He is just a guru. Just really like him, like his stuff. Just really healthy. And so I'd encourage you to get him and get their stuff. What do you do if your business runs out of money? And sorry to laugh, because I think it's something that we all deal with, to run, but you're not yet ready to give it up. My thing is, go back to the drawing board and relaunch it better. Sometimes we keep trying to do it. Go back, start over. Just start over and relaunch it. And you can relaunch it now because you have a lot of time and money invested in it in a way that you've learned. Go back and relaunch it with what you've learned. Take it, what you learned, and use it. And then find money on your relaunch. You have to start over. You're going to need money to relaunch. Of course, with this modern day, if it's at all online entrepreneurship, the threshold of entrance into business is much lower. And so maybe I would think of new ways of approaching that and trying to build an online community around it first, and then launch it from there. But there's much more I can talk about that. If any of you guys want to know more of that, I can deal with that in another gathering. I don't want to take the rest of this one. But refocus the vision, share it with those that are around you, and get them on board, and but build engagement around it, and then relaunch it. So if you woke up and there was $100 million in your account and you knew it was yours, what would you do? Well, I'm a futurist, so everything I want to do is focused on the future. So I would put the money and invest the money, and I would save and give, of course, and contribute. But I would invest it in the next generation. I would try to find the disruptors of the next generation, those that are thinking outside the box, and I would invest in them, and I would try to invest in what they're doing, because I think we can find people and make them great if they have some people on the team and some people on their side. And so I would totally invest in our future and make sure that our next generation was prepared to be great. And Levi, I really want to spend more time on your communication, because you have a wonderful thing. Let me just read Levi's a portion of his thought. I'm a children's author, and from a business side of my work, I travel to elementary schools and put on presentations with young readers. I began doing this for free to many of the schools, but I'm told that the further away, the more it's going to cost. And so I want you to know, I just love that you're investing in this next generation. You're investing in reading, and you're investing in them, educating them. I just love that. I think there's a couple of things that I would like to share with you, maybe a little more, on the other end. I'm starting a new company to help authors, to get them into the market and help them expand their market. And the average author sells 250 books. That's their max, 250 books. And I've worked with publishers, and this has really spoke to me because I'm really passionate about it now. I work with publishers, and I did more work with me for the publisher than publisher did for me. And so you're self-published, and you're wanting to know if there's another way. And I would say, I would try to find a way to automate some of what you do so that you don't have to travel around. And I would try to see if there's another service on top of what you do when you go to these schools. Reading is a great introduction. It's something that you're offering for free. But I would say, is there something that you can scale up on? So I'm here, I'm reading. Maybe there's something else that you can add to your business model that would help them, the school itself. And then maybe there's some online courses that you could produce. And I would love to, if you send me a private message, I'd love to talk to you more about that. But I want to just say to anybody, the more you actually physically have to do in your business, the more it relies on you. And so if you ever have to go and travel or something and you can't work on that business stops working. That is not the perfect business model. You want a business model that runs without you, one that is scalable and systematic in a way that you can actually walk away from it and it still gives you residual and funding. And every business can work that way. I just want to encourage you to look for ways to automate what you do, look for ways to expand what you do, and look for ways to scale up and add more value and get a bigger ticket price. Levi, I'm sure that your goal is to sell books, but I just love the entrance that you have in serving schools, and I think that there's more that you can do on the automated level. I thought to myself, it'd be amazing. I don't know if anybody's doing it. I know that there's some book readers already out there that's automated, or where people can have certain books read to their kids through online. I'm not sure, but there's got to be some kind of online that you can do. And I would say the more you can build your community now, when you work with me in our new company, our goal is to engage you and make you the expert in your space. And so when we make you the expert in the children's books and as a children author, our goal is to brand you. And so I think work on your brand, work on you, work on who you are and presenting yourself. I think making connections are great, but you have to work on who you are, what you do in your brand, and then try to scale it up in such a way that you have something in addition to just selling the book. Maybe there's some kind of teaching program or how to write a children's book program, training or something. And maybe we should talk, because I'm going to be doing a 5-week writing course in January. And if anyone's interested in that, I'll do 5 weeks. And we're going to talk about every kind of writing. And then I will probably do later in the year 2018 a copyright, how to be a copyright in 2018. But just writing books. I've authored 5 books. I'm writing another book, and then the company that we're starting is for launching authors and brand management, brand awareness. So, all right. Hopefully this was helpful. And how about if I go through all the Facebook feed? If you've left questions, or if you're going to leave questions today, I'll come back next week or something like that. And yeah, probably in the next 7 to 10 days. And answer those questions if you don't mind. I'm just so thankful that you guys joined me and that you stayed with me. God bless. Hopefully this is helpful. Don't forget, go to Barrier Busters at Facebook. I think it's at Barrier Buster app, APP, on Facebook, and get registered to that page for me. And we're going to be building that page and just giving you good content for business and success and wealth and increase in influence. All right. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave the questions there on Facebook, and I'll be back. And you can also follow me on Instagram. I send out these individual 1-minute Instagram messages. I call them strong arm headlocks, and I'm going to be also starting a strong arm headlock podcast. So pay attention to what's coming out. I just want to be a blessing to you, and we'll catch you later. God bless. If I can turn this off, see ya.